The room was silent, save for the rhythmic hum of the oxygen regulators. Commander Ryland stood in the command deck of the ESS Revenant, staring at the holographic image of the Galactic Council's final verdict. His jaw clenched as the words scrolled across the blue-tinted holoscreen. Earth to be placed under indefinite quarantine. No contact, no aid, no passage. Beneath those sterile words was a silent death sentence. Billions abandoned, trade routes severed, colonies choked off. Earth wasn't just exiled, it was erased. They called it a sanction, a preventive measure. The truth was simpler. The Council was afraid. Ryland turned, eyes burning through the dim lighting of the bridge. Around him, his crew, ragtag survivors of the last war, stared in stunned disbelief. Hardened men, most ex-military or black ops, some with scars that still wept under their synth skin. There wasn't a diplomat among them, just fighters. "We gave them our blood in the War of Korith," growled Juno, the weapons tech, his face half metal, half regret. "And they lock us out like vermin? Like Earth's some damn infection?" "They never wanted us in the Council," Ryland said quietly. "They feared how fast we caught up, how brutal we fought. They just needed an excuse." Now they had it. 3 months ago, a diplomatic envoy from Earth was ambushed en route to Solari Prime, neutral space. All evidence pointed to a rogue Varnathi faction. Earth requested a joint investigation. The Council delayed, and delayed. Then, yesterday, Earth's retaliatory strike on a suspected Varnathi weapons site gave them their golden excuse. Now Earth was blacklisted, branded as unstable and dangerous. But they forgot one thing. Earth didn't kneel. Earth hit back. And men like Rylan, men who lost everything, they didn't forget betrayal. He keyed in a code on the console. A dark panel slid open to reveal a small cylindrical device. Sleek, simple, lethal. An eclipse bomb, outlawed by every civilized race, capable of snuffing out a moon in silence. It wasn't Council-issued, it was Earth-engineered. "You're not thinking of actually using that, are you?" asked Beck, the pilot, tension creeping into his voice. "I'm done thinking," Rylan replied, his voice gravel. "They silenced our home, turned our people into ghosts, and told the stars we deserved it." Juno grinned, slow and bitter. About time someone made them listen. Rylan turned back toward the black beyond the viewport, the scattered stars blinking coldly. Somewhere beyond them was the Galactic Council's core assembly, a fortress planet so secure no war had touched its soil in over 4,000 years. He intended to change that. "We're going to give them a reason to be afraid. One they'll never forget." The Revenant's engines rumbled beneath them, rising from dormant mode. Old war codes lit up the tactical displays. Hidden pathways through dead sectors began calculating. No return, no backup, no surrender. This wasn't justice. It was retaliation. Earth had been silenced. Now it was Earth's turn to speak in fire. Rylan hadn't slept in 2 days. He sat alone in the war room, surrounded by relics of a forgotten war. Tattered Earth flags, fractured dog tags, burnt-out data cores from colonies that no longer existed. Every piece reminded him of something they'd lost. Someone they'd lost. On one side of the table lay the schematics of the Council Assembly Station, the central brain of the galactic government. Untouchable, untrespassed, until now. A decade ago, Rylan had been stationed as a military attaché to the Earth delegation. Back then, Earth still believed in peaceful assimilation, still believed it could earn a seat at the big table. He remembered sitting in endless chambers, watching arrogant Xenos sneer at human innovation, mock Earth's history as primitive and emotionally volatile. He remembered one word above all: unfit. They'd all said it. Even after humans fought alongside the Council in the Varnati incursions, even after thousands died protecting outer colonies that weren't even Earth's, it was never enough. Earth was useful, not respected. And now, not even tolerated. Ryland's gaze drifted toward the dark device resting beside him. The Eclipse bomb didn't look like a weapon of vengeance. It looked like a conversation ender. The kind of tool you didn't use unless your people were cornered, starved, and written off by those who promised alliance. And that was exactly where Earth was. A knock on the steel frame broke his silence. It was Tanner, the ship's comms officer. Young, raw, still believed in things. Probably the only one who did. "We've intercepted a Council transmission, Commander," Tanner said hesitantly. "Thought you'd want to hear it." Ryland gestured. Tanner activated the holo. It was a broadcast, not encrypted. The Council wanted to be heard. Effective immediately, all human settlements outside Sol System are to be dissolved. Earth vessels within contested zones will be confiscated. Any resistance will be treated as acts of war. A cold weight sank in Ryland's stomach. They weren't just cutting ties. They were cleansing the galaxy of Earth's presence. Tanner hesitated. "Sir, my family. They're on Callus 4. That's outside Sol. They've got kids, schools, unarmed civs." "They won't care," Ryland said. "They never have. You think they'll make exceptions for families when they didn't even pause to hear us out before issuing quarantine?" Tanner looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. He just left. Ryland stood, gripping the edge of the table until his knuckles turned white. This wasn't diplomacy. This was annihilation wrapped in policy. His fingers hovered over the console, then keyed in the ship-wide channel. "All hands to war stations. Secure jump coordinates to Delcran Drift. We'll slip past the fringe patrols there. Activate cloak field. Silence all non-essential systems. We ride dark." Juno's voice crackled through the channel, amused. "That mean we're going loud after that?" "We're not aiming to survive," Ryland said flatly. "We're aiming to send a message they can't bury in bureaucracy." "Copy that," Juno said. "Death ride it is." As the crew mobilized, the Revenant's engines roared quietly in the belly of the Black. Ryland watched the stars slide by, silent, indifferent, cold as the Council chambers themselves. He knew how they operated. The Council didn't care about blood unless it touched their own carpet. He would make sure it did. Not with armies, with one ship, one weapon, one war-born human who refused to die politely. And when the Revenant pierced Council space like a splinter of vengeance, the stars would remember what it meant to betray Earth. The Delcran Drift was a graveyard. Not officially, of course. The Council labeled it a navigational hazard on all charts, but anyone who flew close enough knew what it really was. Twisted husks of old warships floated in silence, torn in half or frozen mid-fire. It was where the last of the Earth Dissenter fleets had been ambushed during the final days of the Korith War, when Earth was still naive enough to believe that fighting for the Council earned loyalty. Ryland stood on the bridge of the Revenant, watching as the silent wreckage drifted past. Human ships, abandoned, picked clean by scavengers, their black boxes erased from Council records. According to the archives, these men and women never even existed. But Ryland remembered. He'd served with some of them. "This was Fleet Omega, wasn't it?" Beck asked, steering them through a narrow corridor of bent cruisers. "The last Fleet Earth sent outside the core." "Yeah," Ryland said. "They never made it back. Council claimed they deserted. They didn't. They were sacrificed." Juno laughed dryly from behind his station. "Hell of a message. Thanks for dying for us. Now rot where you fell." The tension in the ship tightened with every passing mile. The crew knew they were flying through ghosts, not just of ships, but of everything Earth used to believe in. Tanner's voice came through the intercom. "We've got company." Ryland turned sharply. "Hostile." Number just... Weird. Sending visuals now. A cracked hollow appeared in front of him. Grainy, but unmistakable. A lone human scout vessel, unregistered. Painted with a faded Earth emblem, scarred and scorched, drifting near the skeletal remains of a Varnathi destroyer. A distress beacon blinked weakly from its side, the old Earth code. "ID?" Rylan asked. "Running it now." A pause, then Tanner's voice returned, lower, shaken. "Sir, it's the Halberd. She went missing during the drift battle, 22 years ago." "That wasn't possible." Rylan moved fast, reaching the comm panel. "Patch me through." Static crackled. Then, faint breathing. "Identify yourself." Rylan said. Nothing. Then a voice came through. A man's, dry, old, like it hadn't spoken in years. "Is it true? They really locked Earth out?" Ryland stared at the audio feed, stunned. "Who is this?" Another pause. "Captain Miles Orin, Earth Scout Division. I stayed dark. After the fleet went down, we waited for orders that never came. Thought maybe Earth had fallen." Ryland's heart twisted. He remembered Orin, young, arrogant, brave, vanished during a recon sweep, presumed dead. "I'm Commander Rylan Ward, ESS Revenant. Earth stands, but the Council's buried us alive." Orin exhaled sharply. "So it's finally come to this, huh?" "It has." Another moment passed. Then static hissed again. "Dock me," Orin said. "I've got fuel, data cores, long-range stealth modules, and a score to settle." By the time Orin stepped onto the Revenant, he looked like something scraped off a ghost ship, pale, scarred, one arm missing, and eyes that had seen too much space. The crew went silent as he passed. "You really going for the assembly?" Orin asked, sitting across from Rylan in the briefing room. "Not just going for it," Rylan said. "We're going to make them bleed. Then you'll need this." Orin slid a data chip across the table. "Back doors, old coordinates. Council doesn't even know I copied them. Smuggling routes they shut down decades ago, but still connected." Rylan picked it up, inspecting it. "Why give this to me?" Orin's eyes burned with old fire. "Because I died 22 years ago and nobody came looking. The Council left us here like trash. Earth was the only place I ever bled for. If I've got one last fight left in me, I want it to hurt." Rylan nodded slowly. "Welcome aboard." They shook hands. One ghost, one survivor, bound by betrayal. Later that night, as the Revenant powered through the last stretch of the drift, Rylan stood at the viewport again, watching the dead stars spin. The war hadn't started yet, but something had shifted. The ghosts weren't resting anymore. They were riding with him. They crossed the threshold into Council-controlled space, like thieves slipping through a crumbling gate. The Revenant moved under full cloak, riding the old smuggling route Captain Orin had provided. It was narrow, unpredictable, laced with unstable wormholes and dead satellites. But it was quiet, forgotten, just like Earth. The Council's perimeter defenses were spread thin, mostly automated now. They didn't expect anyone to come from Earth. Why would they? They believed humans were contained, boxed in behind the quarantine net. That arrogance had cost them before. It was about to cost them again. Rylan sat with his crew in the war room, the Eclipse bomb glowing faintly inside its locked core container. They called it the Judgment Seed, a human-engineered weapon designed in the final days of the Korith War, but never deployed. Too dangerous. Too final. Perfect! Juno was scrolling through Council transmission frequencies, grinning like a wolf. They're still talking like we don't exist. Trade deals, fleet drills, political squabbling. Meanwhile, we're riding right through their soft underbelly. Beck shook his head. They've gone soft. Too many treaties, too many comfortable centuries. They've forgotten how war feels. They'll remember, Ryland said. Tanner tapped the console. We've got visuals on the Radal Nexus relay, one of the secondary communication hubs for the assembly sector, mostly unmanned, protected by a few automated gunships and one defense platform. Ryland leaned forward. If we hit that, we cut off part of the Corps' response grid. They'll be deaf and blind on the northeast corridor for 12 hours, long enough for us to get within strike range. Juno's fingers danced across the weapons console. I'll gut the relay from the inside out. No, Ryland said. We're doing this our way. He stood and looked each man in the eye. No more speeches, no more alliances, no more appeals. Earth asked for respect, and they gave us exile. We begged for fairness, and they gave us silence. Now we speak with the only language they ever respected. Force. They launched at 0400 ship time. The Revenant dropped cloak and accelerated toward the Radal Nexus, its plasma cannons roaring to life. The automated gunships responded, late, confused, slow, barely able to coordinate without manual oversight. Within minutes, Juno's systems had fried the control tower, severing the relay's spine. Explosions lit the dark like broken stars. The Revenant didn't stay to admire the chaos. It vanished into slipspace, leaving behind nothing but fire and silence. Back in Council HQ, the first alarms started to go off, but no one knew who attacked, or why. Earth wasn't even on the suspect list. They still thought humans were under control. Ryland watched the live feed from a secure sensor drone orbiting the relay. Council will think it's a Varnathi remnant, Orin muttered. Or pirates. They won't believe Earth did this. Good, Ryland replied. Let them point fingers while we move. Within 3 hours, the ship exited slipspace near the Karlon corridor, just 2 sectors away from the core assembly planet. That's when everything went wrong. Tanner's screen flared red. Tracking multiple incoming ships, not Council, not automated. These are real warbirds, sir, and they're heading right for us. Ryland narrowed his eyes. ID them! Tanner's hands shook as he read the data. Human. Old Earth models. Modified. Looks like scavenged vessels. Juno leaned in. What the hell? Orin stood slowly, face darkening. I know that signature. That's the Red Spire fleet. The who? Mercenaries. Orin spat. Ex-Earth. Sold their loyalty to the Council decades ago. They work cleanup. Traitors! Ryland's eyes burned. They're trying to intercept us before we make noise. Tanner's voice rose. They're hailing us. Ryland hesitated, then nodded. A face appeared on the screen, sharp, weathered, eyes cold with contempt. Commander Ward. The man said, You're under Council warrant for terrorism and planetary destabilization. Power down and surrender the vessel. Ryland didn't even blink. You're Earthborn. The man shrugged. I follow the winning side. Ryland leaned forward, eyes like knives. Then you're just another name we'll erase. He cut the feed. Red Spire wants a fight, he said, turning to his crew. Let's give them a damn war. The Revenant turned toward the traitor fleet, engines screaming. No more Council lies, no more silent deaths. Now the killing would be loud, and every spark of it would carry Earth's name. The stars burned red with the first strike. The Red Spire fleet didn't wait for pleasantries. As soon as the Revenant locked weapons, their lead cruisers split formation and opened fire, coordinated, ruthless, efficient. They weren't amateurs. These were Earthborn mercs, veterans who'd traded loyalty for credits, dignity for contracts. Every blast they launched felt like a betrayal carved in plasma. Ryland's ship shook under the first impact. Sparks flew from the ceiling, and emergency lights flared crimson across the deck. "Shields holding at 74%!" Beck shouted over the chaos. "Return fire!" Ryland growled. "Target their bridge units first. I want their command blind." Juno grinned, fingers flying across the tactical console. "With pleasure." The Revenant bucked and roared, its twin plasma lances punching through the nearest enemy vessel's side. The ship burst open like a ruptured lung, bodies and scrap spilling into the void. No mercy, not for traitors. The comms lit up again, this time with interference and scattered chatter from the enemy. "They're flanking," Tanner warned. "2 light frigates trying to box us in." "Let them try." Ryland pulled up a secondary route overlay, the ship's backup maneuver patterns from Korith-era drills, long forgotten in council space. No one fought like humans. No one maneuvered like the desperate. "Cut power to the starboard thrusters for 1.5 seconds, he ordered. "Then reroute auxiliary to aft cannon." Beck hesitated. "That'll throw us into a spin." "Exactly." The ship corkscrewed violently, slamming sideways through the enemy's flank. The pursuing frigate overshot, disoriented, just long enough for the Revenant's railgun to open up and rip it clean in half. Juno whooped. "You beautiful bastard!" But the celebration was short. The largest of the Red Spire ships, the Scythe of Concord, powered up its ion siege cannon. It was ancient council tech, illegal and unstable, but devastating. "They're charging a full core discharge," Tanner warned. "One hit and we're a ghost." Ryland made a split-second decision. "Bring the Eclipse bomb online. Prep launch protocols." The room froze. Even Juno hesitated. "Commander." "I said prep it. We use it here, or we never make it to the core." They didn't argue again. The bomb was brought from its secure container, locked into a high-velocity torpedo casing, armed with a failsafe that only Ryland could trigger. They only had one shot, and the Scythe was charging fast. "Target locked," Juno whispered. "Your call, Commander." Ryland's eyes narrowed. His mind flashed with images. Earth cities darkened under the quarantine net. Families pulled from colony homes, faces erased from records, history wiped clean by cowards in robes. He pressed the trigger. The torpedo launched in silence, vanishing into space. For 6 long seconds, nothing happened. Then the Scythe vanished. It didn't explode. It simply collapsed inward, a perfect sphere of silent annihilation. The Eclipse bomb ate its heart and folded its spine like paper. The core reactor blinked out, and the flagship, the pride of Red Spire, ceased to exist. No radiation, no debris, just silence. The rest of the fleet panicked. "Spire units retreating," Tanner shouted. "They're scattering. No coordination left." "Don't chase them," Ryland ordered. "Let the survivors crawl back and tell the story." Beck exhaled. "You think anyone will believe it?" "They don't have to believe," Ryland said coldly. "They just have to be afraid." The Revenant floated amid the wreckage, her hull scarred, systems flickering, but alive. The path to the Council Core Assembly was now open. One more jump. One final strike, and the galaxy would remember what happened when Earth was betrayed. The final jump felt like falling into a storm that had been waiting for centuries. The Revenant emerged from slipspace right on the edge of the Galactic Core Assembly's orbital shell, a layered defense perimeter made up of weaponized satellites, drone fleets, and fortified bastion stations. It was a floating crown around the Council's sacred heart. Vel-Terran, the homeworld of policy, power, and quiet genocides. From orbit, the planet looked serene, Blue oceans, golden spires, a surface untouched by war in over 4,000 years. That peace was a lie, bought with Earth's blood. "Everything still, no alerts," Tanner said, voice low. "They don't know it was us, not yet." "They will," Rylan replied. Juno tapped his screen. "Council defense net's already pinging us. Passive scan. They're trying to ID without going active. Smart, but slow." Beck leaned forward. "If we hit their orbit line, that net will close. Fast." "We don't need long," Rylan said. "Just one message." He stood in the middle of the bridge, staring at the planet. There it was, the place that had decided Earth's fate with a vote and a shrug. He remembered the day the exile was announced. Earth's ambassador had begged for dialogue, asked for patience. The Varnathi incident hadn't even been confirmed, but the council didn't wait. They passed the motion in under 7 minutes. Not a single representative stood for Earth. And the worst part? Half of them were human-born, raised in the core, fed by council scraps, too eager to show loyalty to their alien masters, too ashamed of their Earth blood to even hesitate. That betrayal stung deeper than any alien bullet. "Bring up the broadcast array," Rylan said. Tanner blinked. "We're transmitting?" "We're doing more than that." They patched into the Universal Diplomatic Band, the same channel Earth used to plead its innocence. Rylan knew the Council would be listening. So would 100 other systems, colonies, factions, and independent planets. The kind that had whispered Earth's name like a curse. The kind that now feared it like a ghost. The feed went live. Rylan stepped into view, straight-backed, bruised, blood on his collar. "I won't waste your time with speeches," he began. "You already decided who we were. You painted Earth as dangerous, unstable, primitive, unfit to sit beside your enlightened council." He leaned forward, voice steel. "You were right." Tanner's eyes widened slightly. Even he hadn't expected that. Rylan continued. "We are dangerous. We're not enlightened. We remember every war, every slight, every time our people begged for fairness and got silence, every time your ships used Earth as a front line, then forgot our names when the peace was signed." The holofeed flickered as systems across the quadrant tuned in. "You feared Earth would rise. You feared we'd outgrow you. So you tried to cage us, tried to erase us." He held up the Eclipse detonator, just for a second, then lowered it. "You failed." In orbit, the Revenant launched a secondary payload. Not a bomb, but a satellite signal burst. It carried raw footage of Earth's outer colonies being stripped, of council ships bombing unarmed human freighters under false flags, of black sites used to harvest Earth tech in secret. Everything they denied. Now the stars would see it. "I'm not here to ask for forgiveness," Rylan said. "I'm here to remind you that Earth remembers, and Earth is done kneeling." With that, he cut the feed. Immediately, Council defense systems roared to life. Tanner's console lit up. "Sir, 4 war cruisers inbound. Fast. Hostile." Beck spun the helm. "We've got 6 minutes before they swarm." Juno was already activating weapons. "I say we go down screaming." But Rylan didn't flinch. "We're not dying today." He opened a private frequency, a channel built years ago, buried in the old war codes. It pinged only one system. Anvil Protocol. "Are you sure?" Orin asked behind him, voice tight. "If we activate that." Rylan nodded. "We make the whole galaxy look up." He pressed the code. Far beyond Velterran's orbit, in the dark spaces no council sensor dared explore, a ripple answered. And Earth's final contingency, long buried, long denied, began to rise. The stars bent when the Anvil Protocol came online. It started with a flicker, a gravitational anomaly, small but growing, just outside Velterran's deep space scan range. The Council's orbital fleet noticed too late. By the time their sensors locked, the anomaly had already bloomed into something monstrous. A ship. No, not a ship. A weapon. The anvil. Blacker than vacuum, its silhouette warped light around it. Over 30 kilometers long, coated in ablative stealth plating, the anvil wasn't designed for war. It was designed for reminders, for making entire systems remember Earth was never just soil and oceans. It was wrath forged in silence. Juno stared at the long-range scans, mouth slightly open. Holy hell, that thing is running ghost systems. No heat sig, no comms, no registry. I thought they scrapped it. They tried, Orin said, voice like gravel. But we knew someday they'd need to see it. What's it even armed with? Rylan answered without blinking. Judgment-class coil arrays, planet crackers, quantum destabilizers, and one core system that's never been tested. Tanner's voice cracked through the tension. Council fleet is moving to intercept. 18 ships, all heading for the anvil. No communication, just panic. They think they can shut it down, Ryland said. They can't. It doesn't listen to the Council. He keyed into a private channel. A cold, synthetic voice replied. Anvil online, command codes recognized, awaiting directive. Beck turned to Rylan. You're really doing this? We gave them every chance. Ryland said. They called us unstable. Now they'll see what unstable looks like. He stared down at Veltaran, the beating heart of the Galactic Council. Peaceful, arrogant, drenched in stolen dignity. All systems target core assembly command. Rylan ordered. Don't destroy the planet. Just take off the mask. The anvil adjusted. Slowly, deliberately. Then it fired. No lights, no sounds. Just a beam, narrow, invisible, slicing clean through the sky. Half of the Council's command spire vanished. Not exploded. Erased. It was as if that portion of the city had never existed. Gone in a surgical blink. No screams, no wreckage. Just silence. All across the planet, emergency sirens lit up. Defense shields activated. Thousands of dignitaries scrambled for shelter, confused, terrified. But no one could find the enemy. Because the enemy had always been beneath their feet. Tanner's eyes were wide. We just struck the Council's most sacred structure. Correction, Juno muttered. We vaporized it. Council comms exploded with panic. Dozens of languages, demands, pleas, confusion. But not a single order to retaliate. Because they didn't know how. Because the fear had already done its work. Back on the Revenant, the crew sat in stunned silence. They'd done it. They had silenced the room that had once silenced all of Earth. Message received, Rylan said coldly. Tanner looked up slowly. So, what now? Do we press forward? Rylan shook his head. Number we leave them to think. They'll regroup. Maybe, maybe not. The anvil's shadow drifted back into deep space, disappearing the way it had come, a phantom with a grudge. Its presence alone was enough. Earth didn't need an empire. It just needed memory. Let them rebuild their spires. Let them replace the leaders vaporized today. Every time they looked at the sky, they'd remember. That Earth came back. That Earth struck without warning. And that Earth left on its own terms. We're going home, Ryland said, back to the ashes. Back to the people who were told they weren't good enough, because now they knew the truth. Earth was never unfit. Earth was just unforgiven. And now the galaxy owed a debt it could never repay. The Revenant slipped into soul space like a ghost returning to its grave. No fanfare, no communications, just silence. The Earth they returned to wasn't the Earth they had left. Cities were dimmer. Orbital docks hung half-finished. Colonies had long gone quiet under forced isolation. What used to be proud banners now hung faded in dust and regret. But there was still fire here, still people, still defiance. As the ship descended through the stratosphere, crowds gathered across the old landing fields. Men, women, children, all eyes lifted to the sky. Most didn't even know what they were looking at. They had only heard rumors of a strike, of something massive, something that made the council tremble. They saw the scars on the Revenant, the hull burns, the missing plating, the silence in her glide, and they understood. Earth had spoken. Ryland stood in the loading bay, staring out through the main viewport as the ramp lowered. Behind him, the crew remained still, their faces grim, exhausted, forever changed. Orin, Juno, Beck, Tanner, all of them knew this was the end of something, and the beginning of something else. They stepped into the daylight. No reporters, no parades, just survivors watching survivors. A child broke through the crowd first, a girl, maybe 10, holding a torn Earth flag like it still meant something. She didn't say a word, just stood there, staring up at them with wide eyes. Then more followed. Families, veterans, mechanics, engineers, the forgotten, the abandoned. And then came the whispers. They made the core bleed. They took out the council. Earth wasn't the one that broke. It was them. The tide was shifting. Back in council space, the aftermath had already begun. Half the council chamber was gone. Dozens of delegates dead. Their entire planetary defense protocol exposed. And no one knew what to do about it. Because they couldn't name the enemy without admitting the truth. Humanity had become untouchable. The Varnathi? Silent. No sudden statements, no provocations. The trade conglomerates, already opening shadow channels to Earth's remaining industries. Even old enemies were watching Sol now, not as a threat, but as an unstable axis the galaxy could no longer afford to ignore. And Rylan? He didn't return for power. Or revenge. He returned because someone had to hold the line. In the following weeks, the galaxy shifted. Council ships pulled out of Earth's borders. Quietly. Without excuse. Sanctions lifted, trade corridors reopened. Officially, no one took credit. No one claimed to have blinked. But everyone saw the aftermath. Everyone knew that Earth, starved, blacklisted, mocked, had sent one ship into the heart of the enemy, and came back without asking permission. The legends began almost immediately. They said the anvil could still be seen from certain systems on moonless nights. They said Rylan Ward died in the blast, or was still out there in the black, watching. They said the Revenant was just the first ship, and that Earth had more buried. The truth didn't matter anymore. Fear had replaced silence. Rylan sat alone outside an abandoned outpost in the northern wilds, staring at the stars. The scars on his face were healing. The ones inside never would. But that was fine. He hadn't fought for medals. He fought so no child from Earth would ever be told again that they didn't belong. Beck approached, setting a pack of old ration bars beside him. We've been asked to meet the new planetary council tomorrow. They want our insight. Rylan chuckled, bitter and tired. Now they want to listen. Guess it only takes blowing up a continent-sized government to get some attention. He didn't reply, just stared at the stars a little longer. They're afraid now, Beck said. The whole damn galaxy. Rylan nodded slowly. Good. Because sometimes fear is the only language left, and Earth had learned to speak it fluently.